I find podcasters so fascinating. They're usually talking about something that they're passionate about, whether it's horror, right?
Yeah.
Or some deep dive into having to fix yourselves and do all the hard work, to
Mhm.
food, to here we are talking about legacy. Oh
Yeah.
shit, I've died. Now what? What are people going
Right.
to say about me? And so now that I'm talking about being in that final stage of life, however many years you have after the age of 65, how do you thrive?
Right.
When I talk about legacy, it's all about what are we going to do now to live our legacy so that people do say
Mhm.
that we want them to
Exactly.
say when we die.
Welcome to Oh Shit, I'm Dead, the Legacy Podcast, the show where we ask the big question: what will they say about you when you're gone? Each week, we sit down with icons, trailblazers, and legends in the making to dive into their stories, scandals, and the legacies they're leaving behind. And now, here's your host, the video godfather himself.
Hey, it's Lou Bortone, and welcome to Oh Shit, I'm Dead, the Legacy Podcast. My guest today is the wonderful Ande Lyons, who I've known for many, many years. And thank you, Andy, because I think you nudged me into doing a podcast. Andy runs the New England Podcasters Group, which has been awesome for those of us in New England because we get to see each other every month and talk about podcasts and learn new stuff. And that is really what pushed me and said, I edit podcasts for several people. I produce podcasts, but I didn't really have my own active current podcast. So Andy's like, put your money with your mouth. It's anyway, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I love spending time with you, Lou. I mean, Lou, we've known each other for well over 12, 13 years.
Yeah.
And so we've been navigating these exciting waters of social media and digital marketing and all of that. But video has been certainly, and podcasting, a love of ours for
Yes.
me since 2012.
I know you've been
And
doing it for a long time.
yeah, both live streaming and podcasting. And so I'm on my sixth podcast. And actually,
Wow.
when I transitioned out of the startup ecosystem, I'm a four times founder. I've been unemployable since 92. And I was a global startup mentor for 8 years, had a monthly pitch event in Boston for 3 years.
Wow.
But I thought, I'm 68. What do I want to do?
Mhm.
What feels on purpose for me? What lights me up, right?
Yep.
So podcasting was it. And there's so much reciprocity in podcasting. And so I went to the 10th anniversary of Podfest. I'd never been before. That was in January of
Right.
24. And I was just about to launch Don't Be Caged by Your Age, where I talk about aging out loud and proud and shattering age
Mhm.
related expectations and stereotypes.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, and this is something people who are over 60 can talk about as well. You get really discerning about who you want to spend your time with. So
Mhm.
community is important. It's all part of successful aging. But how am I going to do community? And given my nature of maybe control freak, maybe leader, you decide. I said, we don't have any in-person gatherings here in New England for
Mhm.
podcast hosts and podcasters or those in the podcast industry. I'm
Yeah.
going to launch one because I find podcasters so fascinating.
Mhm.
They're usually talking about something that they're passionate about, whether it's horror, right?
Yeah.
Or some deep dive into having to fix yourselves and do all the hard work, to
Mhm.
food, to here we are talking about legacy. Oh
Yeah.
shit, I've died. Now what? What are people going
Right.
to say about me?
Mhm.
And so now that I'm talking about being in that final stage of life, however many years you have after the age of 65, how do you thrive?
Right.
When I talk about legacy, it's all about what are we going to do now to live our legacy so that people do say
Mhm.
that we want them to
Exactly.
say when we die.
Yes, the deathbed is not the best place to be thinking about what's my legacy gonna be. That's might be a little too late. But I'm so glad you decided to do this because you have Don't Be Caged by Your Age, which is awesome because for many years I wouldn't even talk about once I hit the big 60. I'm like, oh, people will think I'm irrelevant. I'm not hip enough. I don't know the
You're
latest. I
not
don't know
young
how my
enough, so
kids
therefore
talk.
you don't up of innovation.
Right.
Look, I just got done interviewing a gal. She'll be on episode 41 on the Don't Be Caged by Your Age. she lost her sight at the peak of her career.
Oh my gosh.
It started fading at the age of 49, and then finally at 53 or so, that was it. And she
Hmm.
was a woman who was flying places, had a team. She was like creating
Wow.
magic everywhere she went. Boom. Well, at the age of 70, you should see her using her Ray-Ban Meta
Oh my
glasses to
gosh.
create video content
Wow.
and be on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, sharing her gems. But as she said, she had to get out of Jurassic Park and get into the Starship Enterprise
Yeah.
of innovation. But for folks who are blind, the innovation out there is amazing. So if you
Mhm.
can learn it at 70, right? Come on.
Right.
That's the stereotypes that I'm talking about and the age related expectations that
Hmm.
I heard in the startup ecosystem. So, like you, I never told people my age.
Hmm.
And I would get so upset because at the pitch events I held, they'd be saying, well, tell your business like you're telling your grandma. And it was never grandpa.
Right.
It was gendered ageism. And I'd be like,
Mm.
I could be your grandmother easily, you 23-year-old founder. And by the way, we were coding and building tech companies in the 70s. So shut
Mhm.
the fuck up and sit down.
Exactly.
But yeah, it was when I turned 66, I got the US Route 66 sign out, held it in front of me, took a photo, and did this post on LinkedIn. And you
Yeah.
can see it in my face in the photo. Will you still love me? You know, I'm so friggin' old. But
And it helps to have Paul McCartney doing 3-hour shows at the age of 80 and Mick Jagger prancing around the stage like he was 40 years ago, right?
oh my gosh, it really is. And it's changing and shifting the way we see ourselves as well and what
Mhm.
we want to bring to the world. And that's what I work on the podcast is taking that mindset that we've indoctrinated just because of what society and corporations have told us and said, okay, let's dissolve that and
Right.
let's find a way to pro-age. It's not anti-age. We want to be aging out loud and proud. So everyone on
Mhm.
my show has to say out loud and proud, I'm 72, I'm
Yeah.
81.
Yeah.
And it's a whole new way of viewing the world.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I love the thing, like you said, about, whether you hit a certain kind of landmark age or, oh, I'm this number now. The older you get, first of all, the less fucks you give, which is awesome. And like you
So good.
said, you decide, I think you really start to understand more about what's important. And I think that's when you start thinking about, okay, I'm not going to be here forever. What am I going to leave behind? What are people going
Right.
to say about me? I think that's the whole thing. There's a line in a Radiohead song, Creep, that says, I want you to notice when I'm not around. And that's all I want from life. So,
Right. And that brings us to energy. So as you age, you have an energy portfolio. And
mhm,
even more than time, you become really discerning about where am I going to put my energy, right?
mhm,
Because time, of course, is a very valuable asset, but how you use your energy is important. And I want to remind folks that the brain doesn't become fully formed until you're 57. Okay.
wow,
We
know
have a
that.
whole brain. If you're
Hmm.
sitting there and you're thinking, oh, I can't remember something, it's because you have the Library of Congress in your brain. When you go to look for something, it's going to take time versus someone who only has maybe a local bookstore of info or maybe a few file drawers
Yes.
of
Yeah.
information in their brain because they're so young. We've
Mhm.
taken in so many data points. It takes time to recall that and sift through. That's why I'm
Yeah.
always saying, could you refresh my browser, please?
Yeah, exactly. Hit that little circly thing. When we talk about legacy, what does that word even mean to you?
Several things come to mind,
Mhm.
which is one, the what are people going to say about you when you're gone? Or is anybody going to care? Give a
Yeah.
fuck that you're gone.
Right.
But also, it means thoughtfulness. It means a mindset for how you're moving through the world at this stage of life. And we're calling this stage now the Renaissance years. That's from
I love
60
that.
to 90.
Yep.
And and those are the years that you don't have the responsibilities of raising a family and doing a lot of the things that
Mhm.
you had in the first 60 years of your life. And you can
Right.
focus on who you are and that lasting impression. And
Yep.
hopefully you've moved through enough of the BS of life that
Mhm.
you have a level of gratitude for the fact that you're still alive, right?
Mm.
And that you can still use your words You're not in the memory care facility yet.
Mhm.
And so what does that look and feel like? And it needs to be driven internally.
Mhm.
So your legacy is having a deeper understanding of who you are and who you be in the world and what was the unique value that you
Right.
brought to the
Mhm.
world that
Yeah.
nobody else can duplicate.
Mhm.
And as much as we want to say, oh, I'm like this person or I'm like that, really, there's only one you. And I know you can do the work to find that unique vibe. And to me,
Mhm.
so that's what legacy is. I know for some people it's leaving my children, half a
Yeah.
million dollars or all
Mhm.
of that. Certainly there'd be a nice financial legacy.
Mhm.
But years ago, I gave myself the brand Ande Lyons.
Yes.
I just want people to leave knowing that my light and my Ande Lyons energy touched them in a way that
Mhm.
lifted them up for a moment and that also they felt seen. To me, and my core value is to enhance others, to be able to really look beyond their lampshade and down into their light and then just say, I see you, and tell them what I see. A core, wonderful, delicious piece of themselves that gets highlighted for a moment and they feel seen and they feel heard and
Mhm.
maybe even belong, right? That would be an ultimate thing, but at least seen and then
Yeah.
celebrated for that.
I
I don't
love
care if
that.
it's the cashier or, wherever I'm at.
Mhm. No, and I think that's kind of a theme that's been running through this series that we're doing here about legacy is that, hey, you're living it now. So, and you do embody that. So I appreciate that about you. And you're so sparkly and effervescent. And
I'm
is
a
there any?
flotation device, everybody. It just don't think I don't go down into the depths of despair. Despair and I are old friends. I've had
Mhm.
horrible things happen to me. But my
Mhm.
nature, my DNA package is one where I tend to find the humor eventually and come out laughing.
Yep. I used to think like especially when I lived in LA and had all these Hollywood trappings and all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
Legacy was about having a library named after you, a wing of a hospital. That's not
Well,
necessarily it.
Lou, I go back to the Maya Angelou quote, and I'm
Mhm.
not going to do it justice, but it's basically said, people won't remember what you gave them or what you did for them or something like that, but they will always remember how you made them feel. That
Mhm.
is a lasting, to me, legacy. How did I make
Yep.
people feel? And of course, I'm quite aware that I have pissed many people off.
And that's
So
okay.
it might not always be good feelings.
If I die without a few enemies, I have not done anything. I haven't done it right. So let's do some fun questions here. Like a lot of times, if you're speaking, you go on stage, you have a walk-on song. Would there be a song? Like I have a funeral playlist. I'll just tell you right now. Would there be a walk-on song for your departure? A
Oh
walk-off song?
my gosh, which one do I absolutely choose? Well, I think there's so many great dance tunes that I
Mhm.
just love to dance to, and of course, now I'm having to search through my Library of Congress for the one with Pitbull and Christina
Oh my gosh.
Aguilera
Uh-huh.
about feeling. It'll come to me in just a second, but really the top of mind one that hits me always is the Queen song, Tonight. There's a better name for it, for what it is,
Mhm.
but it's, about how tonight you're gonna feel
Mhm.
great, and it's just to just get it out, get underneath that disco ball and just go
Mhm.
crazy.
Yep.
But then, of course, I can also go back further into my roots as a coming of age in the early '70s and hit some really good blues tunes, like from the Allman Brothers,
Mhm.
and Leonard Skinner, and
Mhm.
some other great rock songs. I think Prince's riff
Mhm.
first of all, I would probably have to have a whole bunch of guitar riffs.
Yes.
Yeah, "Sweet Child of Mine," the
Mhm.
guitar riff there, but also
Yep.
Prince when they were doing the George Harrison tribute,
Oh my God. Yeah.
"When My
While
Guitar
my
Gently
guitar just, yeah.
Weeps,"
Yeah.
hands
Love that.
down.
Yeah.
I can't even listen to Sinead O'Connor's "Compared to You"
Oh,
without
I know.
hearing
Prince. Yeah.
Prince
Who
playing that
wrote?
guitar in the background. I just love him so much. So
Yeah.
if you think
Yeah.
of me, think electric guitar and Freddie
Mhm.
and just dancing and a lot of
Mhm.
accessories. And I have a great shot glass collection I've pulled together
Oh, cool.
because tequila has always been my jam. I
Mhm.
don't drink it as much now. As I
Mhm.
age, alcohol just doesn't go through my system as well as it should. But I want everybody to do a shot of tequila.
Yeah. We'll do one next week at Podfest just for fun.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. That's awesome. I hope it's not for a long time, but I hope there's a mirror ball at your service.
Is a what at the
A, mi-
service?
a, mir- a big mirror ball in the middle of the room
Oh,
over
please,
the
I have a
casket.
disco ball.
Yeah. Yeah. The disco ball. So,
Oh, Feel This Moment, everybody, by Pitbull and Christina Aguilera.
yep. Oh my gosh. So crazy. And then the other question I like to ask is the Andy Lyons story, the Hollywood version. Who do you want to play you in the movie?
There's a young actress, and I don't even know if she's related to Julia Roberts, but her name is Emma Roberts.
Okay.
And she, in a lot of her rom-coms and other roles that she has, I don't know, this ability to kind of like find the humor in things. She has this
Hmm.
funny like face that she gets when she's starting to laugh at something. I would
Yeah.
want her to play with me because she's very quirky and I'm
Hmm.
very quirky and a little bit on the awkward side, but at the same time willing to go for it. And so she, I think, would be that person because folks, I've always experimented. I've
Hmm.
always tried things. I've never, been careful or cautious. Someone playing me would have to be that person who's ready to throw themselves out into the world and go, okay,
Yeah.
why not? Whose car are we going to take?
Yeah. Exactly. I'll try. So the other thing that I think about as I get a little bit older is, okay, what happens next? I think there have been past lives. I'm convinced that I was a Roman emperor. Do I go back there? Do I go forward? Have
Oh,
you thought about, okay, well, what happens afterwards?
I've given a lot of thought, especially since I saw dead people, Sixth Sense, for most of my
Mm,
life until I
wow.
met with a shaman
Mhm.
when I was 46. And I said, I can't do this anymore. Can you shut that
Wow.
valve off?
Yeah.
But I still, my rational brain is like, really?
Hmm.
But seriously, I have so much documented evidence of what I've
Wow.
seen over the years.
Hmm.
It does make me wonder. Also, as a child, I used to wake up and clearly remembered thinking, where are my servants, my people? Where
Wow.
am I?
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, I wonder, is that part of just because I have memory in my DNA, the
Hmm.
Jungian philosophy?
Hmm.
So I don't know what to think about what is an afterlife.
Yeah.
If it's anything, it would just be energy. I remember when my mother-in-law passed and
Hmm.
she spoke very clearly to me and told me what I needed to tell Chet, and I told him.
Wow. Yeah.
So I have a lot of that auditory clairvoyance thing as well as sensory, but I'll also be, and I've been to readings, I've done all the things, but I'll also be the first person to discount it with my rational mind. Like
Yeah.
ashes to ashes, dust to dust. This is it.
Right.
This is your
Yeah.
chance to leave your impression here.
Hmm.
But you're not going to end up in a safe space someplace. And certainly I definitely don't want to be with my family of origin, but I would love to be with my darling husband and see my kids again, of course. But I don't know. I mean, John Lennon said to his son or in Yoko, I'll leave, you'll know I'm there because I'll make sure a white feather
Wow.
is right there. But I don't remember they ever saw the white feather. So
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know.
I hope that that we go someplace where I get to hang out and be buddies with somebody like John Lennon. I would love to have a drink with him.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
what a human. Every year, the loss of his
Mm.
talent, his thoughtfulness.
Mhm.
But then I'd also like to have a drink with George Carlin.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
George Carlin, what he was saying 20, 30 years ago, 40 years ago,
Oh
50
my
years
God.
ago, what's changed?
It's
Nothing.
great that but we still see clips. I saw something on Instagram or something that said,
Yeah.
okay, so we believe that there's an invisible man in the sky that watches over every single one of us every day for all of time, but he needs money. Like he talks about the evangelist.
You
He
did a good
needs
impression of
money.
George Carlin. You did a really good one.
So, anyway. Oh,
But so I don't know what to say. There's a
yeah.
rational part of me, but I've also had just so many hands-on experiences
Hmm.
documented that there's something else.
Yeah.
I'll have to get back to you when I'm facing it. Right now, I'm distracting myself most of the time from death.
Yeah, exactly. We're having a hell of a life now. And I don't know, I
Yeah.
think it was the Chinese thing that said, may you live in interesting times. And that is where we're at.
Yeah, and I think we're faced with that juxtaposition, which is we want to live our best life, be doing things to not only serve ourselves and our family, but the world, our clients and customers and contacts. But at the same time, we need to be in opposition. And I recall interviewing when I had a podcast called Startup Life Live Show,
Yeah.
interviewing a founder out of Kyiv, where she was spending a lot of the time building her business from the bomb shelters underground.
Mm.
So she was still living her best life as far as keeping her team moving forward and building her business, but at the same time dealing with the bombs and people dying. I don't
Yeah.
know how we're going to do that. I
Mm.
just know that with America going through what it's going through, it needed to, something has to happen. And we know from physics that out of chaos, you need chaos actually in order for things to be in a new and better place. And that's what I'm holding on to. In
Yeah.
fact, my darling man Chet came up with the perfect analogy.
Mhm.
He said, watching Notre Dame burn was so heartbreaking.
Mhm.
And the embers and the like, what that structure meant and held
Right.
and all the memories and everything.
Yeah.
But today it's been rebuilt,
Mhm.
including the memories, but only better, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I thought that's a beautiful analogy for where we're at in America right now.
Exactly. Well,
And stay
folks,
with
where they can find Don't Be Caged by Your Age.
You
Your
can find
website.
it on my YouTube channel, and you can find it wherever you tune into podcasts. But I'd love it if you followed me and connected with me on LinkedIn. And I'm playing on Instagram and of course TikTok. So it's Andy, AndeLyons.
Thank you, Ande Lyons. I adore you, and I get to see you in real life again pretty soon. So
I
thanks
know, I
so much
love that
for doing
too.
this.
Thank you for having me, Lou. It's always a pleasure to hang with you and chat with you and be with you.
Thank you. See you soon.
Thanks for watching. Oh Shit, I'm Dead, the Legacy Podcast. Please subscribe and tell your friends about the podcast, and do it now while you're still alive and kicking. Check out other episodes at ohshitimdead.com.